add this to the stage, switch it up. Nope, wrong one. Always do the wrong one. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Yes, I am, Teresa. Nice of you to tune in. I don't think I've ever seen you on my live stream, so thank you for coming by. Yeah, she usually eats up about the first, I would say, what are we at, 8 minutes? It could go this short, but usually she could eat up to 20 minutes of my 2-hour live stream, which is a very productive use of my time. But, you know, she thinks this is her time. If I could just get her to sit next to me and do some artwork, that would be fantastic. But we don't have, she doesn't care about artwork. Do you, Cirilla? You're going to care when you need to eat. And I can't get anything done. I'm still worried about when some of these bigger jobs come in and you're not letting me work on them. Then it's going to be time to panic. Okay. Right. So I kind of want to get to a lot of these outstanding pieces because we got to wind some of these down. Although, I don't know, still on the live streams, I'm probably going to work on non-freelance stuff. Occasionally, I might be doing some Chadiana stuff, but I'm still working on breakdowns, thumbnails for the pages for now 2 stories at once. So it's going to be a little bit before I can work on that. Maybe next week, maybe the week after. I also don't want to give out spoilers, so it's really going to depend on which project it is. Of course, I haven't touched this since last week, which is why it looks about the same if you were tuned in last week. You think I'm talking to you, don't you? I'm willing to do the first maybe 4 pages of A Kid in a Comic live. I don't know that I'll do the rest of them. And then, of course, with the other Chadiana stories, I'll only be able to do a part of them because I don't like showing off too much of the artwork before it's published. Anyway, this was supposed to be one of my Valentine's Day cards, this along with the bat that I was working on. I don't know if I ever showed the bat live, but they never made it in time. They were unfinished because of all the other artworks I had to do. You know, I am looking at that. On my computer screen, it looks pretty good. I'm not sure about on my phone, but I do have to say the camera quality and the lighting is just a little bit better. It's not perfect, better than it was. So I don't know, maybe there's something to this new phone business. I just kind of had a free upgrade, so I went with it. And it made sense because on the free upgrade and moving my plan, because my family and I do it together to save money, of course. Even though I don't live with them. But yeah, we increased our plan. And still got a better deal out of the whole thing. No extra money, but definitely a better phone. I really do hope that camera makes a difference in the final viewing. Anyway, yeah, so since I've been working all day on stuff rather than the way it's been the last few weeks on a Tuesday where I'm first sitting down to do artwork for the first time, I've had so many things going on. And what month was that? January. Yep, January. But yeah, I just didn't quite have the time to get as much creative work done as I really thought I was going to, which wasn't great. I only got I started a bunch of things and continued working on a bunch of things, but the only like 2 real things I got done was the 1 page for A Kid in a Comic and the Gobblers, what is that variant cover that I'm doing for issue 2 of Carrie Ann and Steph Wilson's fun little comic series about adventuring goblins. Worth a read, I have to say. It is funny. It's a humorous book, especially if you're obviously evil because it's goblins, but especially if you're a fantasy or a D&D fan, there's a lot of references to that stuff in there. Anyway, okay. Maybe I want to use the brush pen, but the thing is I'm noticing lately is I'm spending too much time switching from one tool to the other, which I think is worth it sometimes, but I used to do a lot less switching around and things would go faster. I just bought a whole bunch of these pens now. They're not I guess they're not the fine tip because I guess they're the medium tip, but they really have a lot of variety and line quality and what you can get done with it. So it seems weird, but I used to use all those really like small tipped microns, like the O1s, and the older I'm getting, the more I'm starting to want to use like brushes and wedges and stuff, and have something that can vary the line easily while I'm working. Oof. I'm not having much luck with the tune-ins today. People are just in and out. And nobody's active in the comments. I do want to give a shout out to Martin Wynn, who Marvin. Oh my God, did I say Martin? I'm sorry, Marvin Wynn, who shared out this video while it's happening. So he also liked it, but I got the notification on my phone that he shared it. So thank you, Marvin. Go check out his comic, The Edge, which I have a copy of. I just haven't gotten a chance to read it, which is like just about everyone that I support on Kickstarter, even friends. It's like I read their issue 1s, and then because I have so much else. I'm still reading Salem's Lot. Rob's not here, but he'd be interested to know that. But I finally got all of my Kickstarter, all of my friends' comics from Kickstarter, or meeting them at a show or whatever. I finally got them all in a good protective box. Not one of them whatchamacallit boxes either. The cardboard ones. Excuse me, too much seltzer. Not one of the cardboard ones, one of those plastic ones. I really like those. I just feel like they're safer, more durable. And since they have, some sort of ability to let air in and out of it, they won't get like bogged down with moisture if there's too much in the air. Yeah. I swear this one's just about done for anybody tuning in. I just haven't touched it since last week. I was working on 2 other jobs that had to get done the rest of the week, so I only was able to touch this. And then had a convention too, right? I believe so. Oh my god. Oh, right. Yeah, that was the Dark Summer Craft Market, which went pretty good. I updated a lot of my Etsy store as a result. Now I have a lot of my prints and all of my stickers up there. Except for the Halloween stickers, those will only be out from September to through November this year. They won't even be on my convention table until then, which makes Etsy good because that means people that can't get to a show I'm at will be able to, still be able to get a copy of those limited time stickers. And as I said before, I'll probably be doing some like Krampus and other holiday related stuff this year as well, once we get toward it. On that subject, though, was it Etsy? No, I don't know what I was talking about. Maybe it was Etsy. I still can't put everything up there. I'm still worried about putting any of the fan art stuff to my my account will get flagged, a copyright flag. Again, they keep letting people talk me into fan art. I should just really stick to my own stuff. It still gets purchased more than, with the exception of stuff that's like public domain, Wonderland, Oz, the first Oz books, those by L. Frank Baum, however you pronounce it, Baum, and then Nosferatu as well for the 1922 silent film by Prana Films. F.W. Murnau. But yeah, other than that public domain stuff, like, I don't know. I keep letting people talk me into doing other fan art, and then I do it, and then it just either it doesn't sell as well, or then it's stuff that I can only use in certain circumstances, and I'm really not big on infringing on other people's copyrights, which is why I'm seriously thinking about, maybe I could do just From Software and Konami. I could do my Castlevania stuff, and I could do my Dark Souls and Elden Ring and stuff. And then, just leave the rest out. I don't know where all my people are at. No Rob tonight. No Jim. Gets quiet in here when there's nobody going. But Crazy Man just talks to himself, which works out just fine. Too bad Rob's not here, because as soon as I finish with these outlines and details, I'm going right over to that Gentleman Cthulhu piece that he's been wanting to see. These will get made into print. They just, again, it's not going to make Valentine's Day. Just too much on my plate this past month. There were other things too, right? I feel like there should have been. I don't know. Oof, who we got? Raphael and JD Rosario. I haven't seen him in a while. Oh my god. Just on some live streams, and it's been a long time since I've been on them with him. I still got to read his Vicky Sticks, his Frankenstein-like, Frankenstein's monster-like female protagonist-looking comic. I backed that Kickstarter for the first issue. Now, when I go over lines like this, a lot of times it's just because I want to broaden the outline. There's a weird thing that happens with me, right? Sometimes if I'm getting very nervous about my outlining, I tend to go very thin. So I get nervous if I go too thick, then it'll like wreck everything. And then what winds up happening is I have to go back inside and redo it anyway, or make some of them thicker. But it's when I'm overthinking it, which I think I've been doing a lot on the past few live streams. Why? I don't know. Just been kind of settling into the groove of the year. And last month was just, I don't know, it was a little hard to get into a creative groove. But, you know, I think I'm moving nicely now. Hope so. All right. So anyway, yeah, these are from, well, this is a redo, as I've probably said in the past, of the first Mummy Love comic, the Punchline panel. And that's the thing. Like, you know, the Gentleman Cthulhu comic was done on 4x6. And that doesn't make for good reproductions. That size doesn't make for good reproductions. So any of the ones that I feel like could be used for like a greeting card or whatever, I'm going to do like a blown up version like this on 9x12. And then it's reusable. You know, it's only a couple of them. I want to do my line of horror mark cards, TM. And, you know, there's a bunch of pieces that are done. I only have the one right now, which is the Happy Horror Days one. But I do want some other ones. Am I going to haul them all to conventions all the time? Probably not. I mean, occasionally, depending on the season, but I would like to get them up on the Etsy store. And a version of them all on my Redbubble as well. So, with these done, you know, okay, maybe you know what I'll do. Maybe it's time to use the wedge for once. I hope that the microphone on the phone is really good. I didn't really test it before, but for some reason I was getting feedback on the phone even when the sound was off when I was trying to use my my microphone that attaches to the laptop. So I don't know what the deal was there, but I didn't want to have a screechy or choppy speaker, obviously, while I was in a live stream. So I just opted for the phone's microphone. But considering that people in past live streams, when I've had to default to that one, have been able to hear me okay. And the fact that it is, again, a new phone. I'm not trying to brag. I know I keep saying that. But since it is a new phone, I'm going to assume that it's an upgrade. They said the camera would be an upgrade. And I feel like that's mostly true. I just feel like it captures the light better. You know, it's not necessarily that the lighting, I did anything with the lighting differently in the room right now. But I did notice when I tried to use the camera just to test it out, it seemed to be reading the room lighting a bit more accurately, right? So that made for probably what I assume is a better result. Again, I won't really know until I go and like play this back, because while I'm in the live stream, I can't really determine 100% what it looks like. I can kind of say. And then since my laptop's a little bit far away from me, I don't have like, believe it or not, even at that distance, my eyesight's not perfect. Everything's got a little bit of a haze on it. All those years with my nose buried in books and drawing and playing video games. And probably the computer animation department at Pratt, because, man, no lights in a basement. I mean, no windows in a basement, and you're just stuck in front of a computer screen for hours upon hours a day. Yeah, I'm sure that messed with my eyesight. I understand that, according to my eye doctor, Dr. Brown, he likes to say that the science is not definitive on that. But you know what? I used to have perfect 20/20 vision. So I'm going to say that I'm a prime candidate for the argument that, yes, screen time damages eyes, because I had perfect 20/20 vision until I was about 21, 22 when I started to notice it changing. And then it really got bad enough where I had to do something about it. How old was I then? 24, 25, something like that. Then I really needed to get glasses, because it was noticeably difficult to see at a distance. I couldn't read like street signs or anything anymore. Anyway. I don't know why it just popped into my head. I was wondering if Mike Gracia was listening to this, and then it just reminded me that if any of you watching this want to go subscribe to, well, both Michael Gracia's Get in Tune, but also George Medina's Get Your Meds with a Z. Those are two YouTube channels that cover art and writing. Art for Mike Gracia's Get in Tune, and writing for George Medina's Get Your Meds with a Z. I love how George displays his name on that show too, because it does George with a J, which is perfectly understandable. Well, I mean, that is, his name is, Jorge, but I didn't get introduced to him as Jorge, so I got introduced to him as George. And I think a lot of people do. Some people know him as Jorge, just like some people know me as Jeff, and some people know me as Jay. I feel like Jeff's more personal, but when somebody has known me a very long time as JM, I always excuse it, because like that's how they've known me for years. And even when we become close, they still kind of are used to JM. So who am I to tell them to stop using it? I answer to it. Just don't answer to Jim. People make that mistake. It's not my name. Anyway. All right. Yeah, I really got to make sure I warm up before these live events. It makes it so much easier. That said, I know it's like, how many more things does JM want to add to his plate? I want to start giving myself a little bit of time on Fridays when I'm not traveling for a show to do life drawing again. Well, not life drawing. That's incorrect. At least drawing from reference. I just would like to not necessarily do studies, but just spend about an hour or two just once a week, just doing sketches and such from reference photographs, just to make my my skill set a bit sharper, you know. Okay. I think we're about done, unless at some point later I decide I want to add something. This is looking pretty good, and I can move on to the other piece. All right. Yeah, this one has been sitting forever. 2022. Bad JM. Bad. Okay, what do we got here? Whoops. Oh my God, did that? No, it didn't pause. Cool. All right. I was afraid because I almost wound up out of the app. Well, not the app. It's not an app. It's not an app. All right. Seltzer break. Okay. Oh no, I did forget something. Sorry for anyone that was hoping I was done. I wanted to get more cracks in this. We're almost there, I promise. Told you I might have to add something else. See, right now I'm using one of those tiny microns, but that's because fine details. Fine details. I really thought I was done there. Oof. Really, really did. Yeah. I wonder that anyone wants to see this thing get finished. Seems a lot of people dance out of this one. Nope, no comments. Okay. Cracks, trees, spider webs. Some of my favorite things to draw because they're just a little bit more freeform and I do not have to be straight with my lines. I can get a little funky with it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let me just make sure that's not important. Nope. Oh my God. My friend's just sending me a gift. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very quiet here today. But we're only 40 minutes in? That's not too bad. I got number 6 on the likes there. Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, that wall's looking like it's going to crack open soon. Maybe I went a little overboard. Well, I'm just having fun. All right. So the question is with the palm tree design is, do those go up or do those go down? Egyptian column. Egyptian. Oh no, the item. And friggin' Chrome. Chrome doesn't like to give me. Oh, come on. Egyptian column. Thank you. Trying to figure out if that pattern has a texture to it, and if it does that texture move all the way through? Does it? Oh, wait, that's a good one. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, man, sorry. It looks like maybe. Maybe I don't have to drive myself crazy with this. Maybe that's what it is. Oh, beg to differ? No, I think that's good. All right. Right? Just double checking. I don't want to have to come back. Well, gotta have some cracks in here. Yeah, I know this thing looks like it's about to shatter. So many cracks. I can't help it. I like the way they look. Right. Okay. Moving over to gentlemen. Get through the mail. I can close that for sure. All right. Here we go. That's the good one. Let's find out, shall we? Oh, you know what I do need, though? Fudge. Fudge. That's right. I put it in here. I guess it's a lot better than using pieces of paper, but it does get a little bit hot in these things. It does keep me from smudging too much, so. Is this one of the good ones? Yes, it is. Okay. There we go. Still getting text messages. I don't care. Thank you. Anyway. Well, not that I don't care, you know. Oh, you know what, though? I don't like how slippery that feels. I've used it a couple times, but now all of a sudden, I don't like it. I don't like the way it's making my hands feel. It's all right. I'll make an adjustment. Ooh. Chin hair is getting in the camera. I hate that, because really, who wants to see my ugly face in the camera? You already have to see it this way. You don't see it that way. All right. God damn, that's like messing me up. It's making the whole process feel weird. Yeah, I don't like it. It's like changing the angle of my hand. Maybe that's why I wasn't using it before. Let's get this gross looking piece. Put it to good use. Wait a minute. Smallest scissors in the world. Easier. Okay, here we go. Back to it. And I want the other one. All right. I think the new system for this live stream is going to be to always have one piece, either just finished inking or whatever on the left side, and we're on deck to be worked on, because it does give the viewer something else to look at, even though my little, I wonder, should I like move that? If I put it on the bottom though, it won't work. Well, I guess it'll always be a little bit covered up. Maybe that's good though. This way nobody can get a screen grab and try to feed it through their AI art software. They probably figure out some way to do it anyway. Dishonest, talentless. Oh my God. That's funny though, actually, speaking of like dishonest and AI. I shouldn't say this, but I got an ad for Adobe that they were going to be at some event. I forgot what it was. It's a well-known event, but they were going to be there interviewing creators about their creative process and stuff. And I just was so mad because I'm thinking, you guys were already stealing people's art to feed through your AI. What are you going to do now? Figure out people's creative processes so that you can feed that through your AI too? I said that on the video. They probably took down the comment, but I took a screenshot, so I've got receipts. I did say no comments yet, huh? Just the silent viewers. Another one bites the dust. All right, yeah. Back to the other one. Yeah, why not? So quiet here. Not a single person. Just Teresa's comment earlier. It's okay. It's one of the great things about doing this live stream is that if nobody comes by, I just get to sit here and draw. And if people come by, I get to sit here and talk with friends and draw. Win-win. Win. So. Although this does seem to be a particularly quiet week. We at 9 o'clock yet? Sometimes it changes over about then. I don't know what it is. I guess. What's 9 o'clock on the West Coast? Because, you know, I'm on the Eastern. Actually, I always put EST, but really, you know, I should just put ET for Eastern time because I can never really remember when it's daylight. Because it's like EDT, Eastern Daylight Time, or EST, Eastern Standard Time. Guess we're in daylight savings right now. So technically, I don't know. I personally feel we should just all go by the world clock. Eastern time's -5 on the world clock. Most of the time. Because, see, that's where this damn daylight savings time just like messes with it, doesn't it? I just feel like if we went by the world clock, then everything would just flow better. But it would take, well, you know, I'm still considered a millennial. I would think my generation and above would have a very tough time adjusting to it. Not my whole generation, but a lot of people would. And not every generation above, because not every person in those generations. But I think it would be an adjustment for people that were used to, first of all, I think people that were in the military used to a 24-hour clock would probably adjust better, but people that are on like the 12-hour clock with AM and PM would probably really have a difficult time. I think Gen Z would adjust to it because the world clock has been a standard on the internet for a long time. They've probably seen it more than other people, I would think, on average, right? But that's probably not a hard and fast rule either. February 2024. It's hard to believe we've gotten this far, JM. Oh, somebody's in. Oh my God. I don't know why I'm so tired. I actually got good sleep last night. Didn't wake up too early either. Just a good time, a little bit before 6:30. Jim, how are you? No worries about being late. I feel bad because I showed up to the conlanging group and I was like so quiet through the whole thing. Everybody was talking about languages and I just felt so out of my league. So, and I was working on something, trying to get it finished up because I was in the middle of that market. But I didn't want to miss the meeting because I'm not going to be able to make another one until the end of the month. Whatever that Saturday is, the 24th or 25th, because I have conventions on Saturdays at least the next 2 weeks. That weekend I have a convention too, but it's on Sunday, so I can come by. Yeah, it's really hard, right? When that stuff starts happening, because it's just like, oh, I don't know what to say. And then I think, as I've said to you before, and I definitely said it to the group that day when I think I wound up talking a little bit later when it was just, is that Grayson? Yeah, I think so, right? He took over after Tony had to leave. But yeah, I talked about it a little bit. I just like I forget like there are a lot of linguistic whatchamacallit, lingo I know and vocabulary, but then when I haven't been looking at my conlangs or looking at linguistics, I kind of forget that stuff and have to like look it up. And then I commit it to memory again and I forget it again. You know? So yeah. No, it's okay. You should be a linguist, man. I don't know how you just like you have developed it, Lonnie, to such a degree that you can just like come up with those words out of nowhere. I've never seen anything like it. And because I got myself into it because of Tolkien, from what I understand, Tolkien even used to have to like get out a piece of paper and like work it all out. I just feel like you're able to pop a new word out like off the top of your head. Of course, using your rules, but I'm pretty sure his system, though, he would like figure out the root it came from and then work its way down through the ages and try to figure out exactly where it wound up. And that's how he would come up with his words, which, hey, he had his system too. Some of us come at it from an artistic viewpoint and some from a more scientific point of view. I feel like I kind of like go a little bit of both, right? But there is this part of me that has a very scientific look at it in the sense that like I always feel like it's a numbers game, and that's where I think I get locked up a lot of the time. It's like I want to make sure I have enough roots to make words from. I want to make sure I have enough class modifiers and stuff like that so that I can like my how I derive my words, right? The derivational morphology, I think is the way you say it. Which I find fascinating. I mean, once I started getting into that, but yeah, there's just this, I do have a very, it's weird, right? Because I'm an artist and I'm a writer, but when it comes to languages, I think of them more like math. And then I think maybe that's why I like Semitic languages so much, because it's very like organized, like those triconsonantal roots and stuff like that. I think that's what appeals to me about it. Even though some people might find those languages more complex, I just like, when I first learned about how they worked, it was just like, oh wow, this is cool. Which is why I say one of these days I'd like to learn Arabic. I just don't feel like in my life Hebrew would be as useful, but Arabic's widely spoken, so I'm more likely to bump into native or secondary language Arabic speakers than anybody else, I would think. Especially where I live. I mean, New Jersey, New York, especially northern New Jersey, there's so much diversity of cultures here. You're bound to bump into somebody, that speaks it or a close equivalent. And, maybe you'll be able to understand one another. Not always the case, though. I learned that the hard way when I was working at Pizza Hut in high school, and people were always like, yeah, Italian and Spanish are really close, and there were a lot of natural Spanish speakers that couldn't speak a lot of English, and I tried speaking to the one guy in Italian, and holy crap, he had no idea what I was saying, because a couple of the verbs were not equivalent, so it was like, I was saying dove for where, and I forget what it is in Spanish, but it wasn't even close. I have learned a reasonable amount of Israeli Hebrew. You are not too far from me, Long Island, New York. Yeah, but in Long Island, I could be wrong. And actually, there's a high Jewish population in Teaneck, which is right. Yeah, but Dove is Italian. I guess it is Donde, but he couldn't understand what I was saying. I was trying to ask where the manager was. He was looking at me like he had no idea what I was talking about. But yeah, I don't know. I could be wrong. Yeah, there's a high Jewish population in Teaneck right next door, but I get the impression maybe that out in Long Island, you guys probably have a higher Jewish population out there. I don't know. Maybe. It's an assumption. Which I shouldn't make. So I could see it perhaps being very useful for you where you are, actually. For me in Ridgefield Park, specifically, Spanish is the most useful. But then, and I'd say that's everywhere, but that's probably not true. But then going beneath that, I don't know. We have, I guess I would say, Hebrew would be useful for the Jewish population in Teaneck. If you go out to Fort Lee, high Korean population, so that could be useful, Korean. But then, I don't know. Like, I would guess there's a high it's grown. There's a pretty high Indian and Palestinian, not Palestinian, I'm sorry, Pakistani population. So I would guess like Hindi and Urdu would be useful, which those are close equivalents, which I found out because when I was still teaching, some of my students had informed me of that. Pakistani student said that they probably could understand a lot of Hindi because of how close it is to Urdu. Your neighborhood has Italian population, Jewish population, and here speak Yiddish. Oh, yeah, that makes sense, right? I forgot about that one. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would say we have a lot of like Irish and Italian out here, but nobody's speaking Irish or Italian over here because in New Jersey, most of them have been here for a few generations, so it's pretty much like worked its way out. I mean, I guess some families still speak it, but I didn't even grow up speaking Italian. I just learned it in, excuse me, I've been drinking too much seltzer. I learned it in high school. It seemed to make sense. Although, funny enough, if they had offered German, I probably would have taken it. I know some people say it's such a hard and not nice sounding language, but don't tell me that. I really like it. There's a lot of like, a lot of things I like about, English has more Germanic roots, and I've always wanted to learn to speak German. There was a time where I wanted to learn Japanese too. I'm not saying that's off the table, but that's getting into a whole other language family. That was something I found out that's interesting, right? Is like, I forget which languages they are. Japanese, I know, is one of them, where it's like, it's almost like the Finnish, the Uralic tree, where like, yeah, they don't have a lot of like connections to other languages. Not that Japanese and any of the Uralic tree are connected, just different, obviously different, but not a whole lot of connections to other languages. Which I found interesting, Well, I always find that stuff interesting. Although I did see someone on the conlang list trying to propose that maybe the Uralic tree had Semitic roots, which, I mean, I had never heard either. It seemed like a lot of people were, no close relatives. Yeah, it's kind of like on its own thing. I don't even think it's related to the, what is it? Austronesian? Is that how you pronounce it? I don't think it's even related to that branch or that tree, right? Which is a lot of the Southeast Asian and, natural born Australians and New Zealanders. A lot of their languages come out of that. Yeah, it was funny because I was going to originally base one of my languages on Japanese, and then I just thought, like, it's too much of an isolated language in the sense that, like, it wouldn't work into my vision. I might still have some callbacks to it, but yeah, that's kind of what I've noticed, right? It's strange, though, how that happens, they just really, some languages are so, broken up from one another that there's no way to connect them to something else. It's funny, though, because I'm not a big proponent of the idea of, like, the singular, language, and I'm not, this isn't to, knock anybody that does believe it, but, like, the single proto to all mankind's languages, I forget what that theory is called, but, yeah, I think at one point I was thinking about going that direction with my invented world, and then I was just like, no, it kind of does make sense, the whole various trees and branches and having different different originators for those. And since when you're working in a fantasy world and you have all these different I don't even know, because some people don't like using the word race anymore with those, but species, type, being types, whatever. Yeah, it makes it easier to kind of like go with that idea of different languages coming from different genesis. You're undecided on it. I mean, look, it's one of those things where I'm kind of one of those guys where, like, if there's enough proof, yeah, I'll, I'm not going to deny anything. I just noticed that, like, it's a very debated topic, and since I'm not enough of a linguist, or I'm not a linguist at all, I'm just like a armchair hobbyist that way, but I don't know enough to really come to a stance on it, I guess is what I'm saying. But I guess I'm not a proponent of it only because, like, it seems like it's a very argued and contested debate about, because they can only take the languages so far back, and then getting a lot of I remember reading something about it. There's some things that they feel like they might be able to connect, but it's still too loose of a connection that, and there's not enough of it to really. No, I know what you're saying, but now I'm just like, I'm on the topic. I'm not trying to have a debate about its validity or not. I still find the idea fascinating. Like, if it was ever proven, I think that would be cool. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's just yeah, it's funny because I guess the only reason it does appeal to me, and I find it interesting that they're not able to do it, is because and I know this is debated sometimes too. I'm going to open myself into a possible world of trouble here, but, like, it's pretty well documented and accepted that the human race during Pangea probably came from more of the African continent, and I'm all for that. Like, I pretty much believe that. But then if we all came from one spot, then there's all these different languages that they can't connect. And it's like, did Homo sapiens move along so far without ever creating a language? Or, then my other. Yeah, exactly. But then there's this other part of me that's like, well, is it possible that some of these had a loose connection to some of the other Homo species on the planet at the time. Because I mean, we do know that at least, speaking scientifically, Neanderthals were at least somewhat contemporary to modern man. But I don't, now I'm getting into places that I don't even know that much about, whether like those others had any kind of language whatsoever. I assume they would have had to have, but I don't know if there's any evidence of it surviving. Now we're getting into a whole thing. But I guess that's kind of like the sort of thing I'm, in a weird way, exploring with my own, not that I get into like that kind of like prehistorical stuff, but with my own invented world, I guess it's like part Middle Earth, but also part Robert E. Howard's Hyperborea. Because, it just, I don't know. I like this idea of this, like, at least this fiction of a prehistoric world. It's just, I don't know. That's why I'm kind of like basing it off of like existing cultures and stuff like that. And languages, at least loosely enough. But yeah, I do appreciate you bringing me into those meetings, because between that and some of the new things happening with Chadiana and getting back to work on it, I'm sorry, specifically inviting me to those conlang meetings, because yeah, it's like it's definitely getting the itch going for diving back into the languages. It's like I was saying to Grayson, though, like I really have to, just like I don't want to take the fun out of it, but I definitely, just like I have time in the day where I work on art or I work on writing, I want to like carve out some time, and it technically is in my plans. I've just never like committed to it, but I would like to spend some time each day or each week working on like just specifically on world building, which would include working on the conlangs and everything. I've done so much world building, really. I did, especially in college and everything. The hardest thing though for me then was the languages, and then because I wanted everything to have names that were, some things you want to translate, of course, because maybe it would just be too much of a tongue twister for somebody. And, I agree with Tolkien's approach of like having some names or words seem semi-familiar to the audience it's written for, right? But yeah, I'm not ignoring your comment. I'm getting to it. I'm sorry, Jim. But yeah, that's why a lot of stuff slowed down for a while. I don't know, man. I need a handler, somebody that can just like rein me in. Yeah, right. It's I guess it's not weird, but they're very different inspirations to have. I think when I first read Howard, and I started with the Solomon Kane stories, which are still my favorites because it's got that dark fantasy feel to it. But I was like, this is what I want. I want to be able to do like descriptions and languages and and just the feeling of the world like Tolkien does, with all the action and energy of Robert E. Howard, and it just it evolved from there, because then more inspirations came in. But Yeah, no, you are quiet in the conlang chat, but it depends. You know, I've heard your voice a few times chime in. I just I really wanted to be more I wanted to be more talkative this week, and it just, you know, or this past weekend, but it just wasn't in the cards, I guess. I don't know. There were a couple times I tried to add something in, but some uh, sometimes it can be a little hard when people are very passionate on a subject, you know, and I don't want to interrupt either. Because there was the one person that was mentioning all of the was mentioning the fact that you know, depending how close to the equator certain cultures are, they're more or less likely to have multiple words for either heat words or cold words. And it just reminded me of like some of the roots, because I went through, you know, again, because when I really got into roots, I really went through and wrote like every root down I could find for all of the penultimate proto languages, right? And yeah, I did notice that certain languages did have multiple um, multiple words for certain, multiple roots for certain things, for certain concepts, and I was going to back him up on that, and then he couldn't get a word in edgewise, which was fine. I didn't mind. Oh man, no. As I get more comfortable and I start asking more questions and brush up on some things, maybe I'll be able to add to the conversation more. I feel like I haven't touched this. It's the same thing. I haven't touched it in so long that I kind of forget what I was trying to do with it. So we might have to break out the pencil for a bit. Yeah, they definitely are. And so is the culture, the food, and the arts. You know, it's just like a homogenous thing. You know, it's just and I think that's why I'm fascinated with roots too, because I get really into what concepts certain certain languages and thus the speakers themselves like link together. I forget what root it was that I found in what language, but the concept of mountain and king were the same root. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. It made sense. You know, you can see that line of thinking. Even though it's like so far in the past that you don't, it's like a vague connection for you, right? Because you're just kind of like, yeah, it makes sense, but you don't exactly know why that decision was made per se, you know, at that time. But yeah, well, that's why I like the etymology stuff too. I just love seeing how concepts evolve and change, and how one word derives from another, and how that happens. And if I could get my poop together, as it were, to get some more work done on my languages, I could really go through a etymological process with a lot of words, you know. I already have some words that I know that came from like one language influencing another, and that's the other thing I really want to do. Is I really want to have these languages that, you know, they, as the speakers start to come together, there's a lot of like you know, loan words and transliterations and all this stuff that's happening, and you know, just to like bring in new concepts from one speaker's culture to another, you know. And I like the idea that of like certain cultures having certain specific things that were unique to their experience, that then that carries over to like a whole other language, are creative and innovative. Yeah, they are, you know, they definitely are. If we weren't, right, I wouldn't be sitting here on a live stream drawing this on paper, talking to you out on Long Island, you know, through the internet with all these lights lighting it all up. I mean, yeah, in an apartment even. I mean, the whole thing. Yeah, we definitely, being an animal lover, right? Sometimes I wonder, I mean, I guess I don't know that other animals and species really have the ability to think that deeply about it. But I wonder if there's a sense of dread or awe or anything when they see what humans do, like in the sense that, and I don't mean anything like, you know, I'm not talking about like war, you know, any of that stuff. I just mean like something as simple as like, yeah, we can like, I always wonder if my cat, like, you know, thank you, James. Jim, you bring out a lot of, like my philosophical side, which I really appreciate because, you know, I'm definitely an overthinker, but it comes from a lot of this stuff. I always wonder, right? And I think about it most mornings, actually. I come into the kitchen, which is right next to me over there, and the light switch is right there on the wall. And sometimes I'm up at like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. The sun's not even up yet. And I wonder, like, what sensation Cirilla has when she sees me just come by and, like, the lights turn on. You know what I mean? Like, I just wonder what that's like for her. Like, just, oh my God, you know? Or maybe, you know, maybe being a human being and having that ego, maybe I think it's more impressive to her than it actually is. Maybe it's just like very mundane and there's absolutely no feeling of awe or anything. It's just like, yeah, there goes the light, you know, sort of that sort of thing. Who knows? I find it interesting just thinking about stuff like that. Yeah, we definitely have to. I mean, you're so not far away. I mean, well, you know, Long Island can be a bit of a trek from New Jersey, depending on the time of day. But really, we should get together and, you know, have a meal or coffee or whatever. Or, you know, hopefully I can get to like Copacon. Right? I hope I'm saying that right again. Because, yeah, we could have one of these chats in person. These fascinating, endless, just thoughts on pretty much everything. It is enjoyable. Yeah, whenever you're here, you know, and I don't want to like single out people as like being the really the ones that make the live streams easier, but you, Jim, Rob, when he comes by, and you guys really, it's always a good conversation, and it just yeah, it becomes, the chat just gets more lively for a little bit, even if it's just like a one-on-one thing like this. It's fun. It's fun. And I know I said it before, but you never have to apologize for being quote unquote late. There's really no. I go live at 8 because that's when I'm expected to be on. Although I think I was a little bit late last week. I was having some trouble getting everything. I would love to get together for coffee one day. Yeah, we definitely should. You know, or like I said, lunch or something. I got to drink my coffee, just so you know. I have to drink it before 12, just because I have such problems sleeping, even with the medication I take for it. It just, I'm always afraid if I drink coffee too late, I won't fall asleep. But I guess if I did decaf or tea works, you know. But yeah, it's always good to do it a little bit earlier if it works, whatever. But oh well, yeah. Yeah, I do often wonder what other beings think about, though. You know, I've always had an inherent interest in my pets since I was a kid. And now I don't even like referring to even Cirilla as my pet. I pretty much say she's my roommate or daughter, my fur baby. I don't know. And it's funny, right? Going back to the language thing, but I may have said this before, but that's kind of how I feel it is having an animal in the house. It's like you're for lack of a better term, you're two people living in the same household who don't speak each other's language. And even worse, you're never going to be able to learn each other's language, so you're just going to have to figure out another way to communicate effectively. So yeah, you know, it's nice. Of course, I like having company in the apartment, but I also like having another person around here, so to speak, that has their own autonomy, you know, like, and I like giving her that to a point. Of course, I can't just leave the door open and let her go get into trouble, because that would be a little bit unsafe. But there is this part of me that struggles with that too, ethically. I always feel like, am I doing the right thing? Should I just let her come and go as she pleases? I don't know. Marfanam. I'm gonna assume that the stress is on the final syllable. Marfanam. Friend animal. Yeah, it's a good word for it. It really is. It's just too bad they don't live as long as we do. Well, barring any kind of accident, right? Because, I mean, we're not really guaranteed that either, not to get super morbid and whatever at the same time. But yeah, yeah, it's just too bad they don't live longer. My Atlani's getting better. That's good. That's good. Yeah, I made the assumption that the stress would be on that last syllable because of the I forget what that's called. Which is a good idea, right? Like, again, that's kind of like a Tolkien-esque thing to do. A lot of times he would put some marker on the syllable that was supposed to be stressed. Not all the time, though, because I guess usually he would defer to whatever the English speaker would think was the most natural to put the stress on. But then if he felt like he had to specifically delineate from that, he would put some sort of stress mark on it, which was never consistent, right? It was always like chevrons for Kuzuld, which was the language of the dwarves. And then I forgot how he used it with Sindarin and Quenya. I'm pretty sure he used the same kind of markers, though. The little tick check. I can't think of what it's called. But yeah. I'm glad my Atlani's getting better. I mean, it's a little bit accents, right? Yeah. Well, yeah, that should have been the obvious answer, right? I mean, Spanish uses them. I was going to have to use them for certain languages because I knew that. Although I don't know if my usage of it is always going to be consistent because there's some certain things that like I have already kind of built in, but I don't use. So like, right, an example, going with its roots, which is more in line with say things like Arabic and the I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on that. The I'm thinking Devanagari, but that's the writing system. Oh my god! And I'm not thinking Hindi. I'm talking about the language tree for South India, Tamil, Malayalam. They're all. It's like I can almost see the word too. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, yeah, Dravidian. Oh my god. Maybe I should drink coffee later. Anyway, yeah, the proper actual like I guess right transliteration's the right word for that, right? Of Chaudhyana would actually be this. So you could see where the longer A's were, or the longer versus the sound, right? So cha, de, ya, na, right? But I know that people would have a tough time pronouncing that. In fact, the original publication of Chaudhyana and the Company of Shadows had a character that was and he still exists in the canon story, but Ishelarod, right? So the double A would let you know that it was a long, versus a short vowel there. But I knew that, like, okay, that would make sense to anyone that read transliterated Arabic or anything from the Dravidian languages, but otherwise that would be like really hard on an English speaker. So I dropped a lot of that. I do have a character which hasn't shown up yet, and she's not going to be showing up for a long time in the Chaudhyana series, named Jale, right? But it's a short eh sound at the end because it comes from a more of like Fox African language. So it's not jail, which I know that people will want to pronounce it that way. And it's not Jale because it's not a long eh sound at the end. It's Jale, So I got to figure out a way to put an accent there that lets people know to cut it short. But anyway, yeah, getting into all of it right now you're getting like a little bit more conlanging out of me all of a sudden. There's certain things that I've worked out, but then, like I said, I always feel like I got to go reinvent the wheel because I'm just like, nah, this isn't coming out right. Rule number 1 in transliteration Make it simple for your target audience. They are most likely not linguists. Yeah, of course, right. And that's one of those things that I learned along the way. I thought maybe I would challenge people, and it would be like, because I also believe as a writer, you don't talk down to your audience and also expect that they're intelligent enough. And there are certain books like, and I haven't read it, Dune or the Book of the New Sun, which, I've only read Shadow of the Torturer so far, but where they have words in them that they don't give an explicit definition. You just, through its usage, have to figure out. But yeah, reading a word and trying to pronounce it is totally. Really? Oh, that's interesting. Mine was just going to be for the color green in my language, Jumbayawutu, right? But that's interesting. Huh. What a small world. A small world, Jim. Yeah, I don't know that the H is actually something that would work in transliterating Jumbayawutu, because it's not. I don't know that sound factors in anywhere that I could use it. Not sure when I find the time to read, but hey. What do you mean, read during the live stream or just read books at all? Because, but I try to read as often as I can, but I'm still getting through Salem's Lot. That's been like 2 months now. It's good. I definitely read Carrie a lot faster, but it's in this big volume of 3 in general. I have to though, bud. I have to. As Jim will tell you, any good writer needs to do a considerable amount of reading, right? Because how else do one, you keep yourself sharp, and you just kind of learn new things. It's pronounced jale, comes from the Persian. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even know that was a word. Jale. I was going to have that pronunciation of J in different languages. What does it mean? Jale. That's interesting. But yeah, but I got to keep it. Well, bud, you sit and watch horror movies, I assume, don't you? I do too, but not as often. I usually like to watch movies with people. I'm terrible at watching things on my own. But you find the time to keep up with the horror movies, right? I just keep up with the horror reading and other reading. There's just so many books I've always wanted to read too, and I was doing such a great job during college and post-college, and then I started slowing down. Probably one of my depressive episodes in my 20s just started taking the wind out of my sails. And then I got busy. Once I got a teaching job, it was a lot harder to read on top of everything else. And, call it what you will, I don't get a lot of time these days, but I grew up with video games, and I do find that when I really need to tune out, that helps me better than reading does, because reading requires a lot of concentration. Not that games don't, but because they're multisensory, I seem to do better. But yeah, and you go on vacations with your wife. Where do you get time to do that? It looked fun though. It really did. One of these days I gotta go to some Caribbean. I assumed you did. I assumed you did love learning, honestly. You seem to have a lot of interest. Do drop on the rose, so I have been told. I don't speak any Persian. Yeah, but sometimes you can look up a name's meaning, right? That's a nice It's a nice name, even though I thought I invented it. And it's got a nice meaning too. Very nice, Jim. Wow, 2 conversations at once. This is like exciting now. This is like, as good as it gets on the live stream. Yeah, but you seem like the learning type. I think because, and this is it, if I may, and I might be totally off base with this, but because you have an artistic side and you're also interested in things like construction and everything, I do find people like that who have like an interest in the arts and a very hands-on skills and are interested in that usually do like to learn. Lights out here, like your drawings, though. He's all yours, Jimmy. No problem. Have a great night. You be well. Get some rest. Hope there's no paint jobs to redo. I know it wasn't your fault. Yeah, Bud's a good guy. Bud and I met at Monster Mania in Oaks, Pennsylvania. That was November. Yeah. He was, well, I would say next to me, but he really wasn't. He was with his friend who was across from me, but whoever it was that was next to me never showed up. So Bud wound up hanging out half the time at the booth next to me. It helped the time pass because they were, that was a very well-attended show. And I know some people that did very well at it. I had an aisle that I was in that just was not, I did good. I didn't do great at the show. And I think it's just because the traffic wasn't flowing into my aisle. But you know what? I'm already signed up for next year, or this year actually, right? So I will be there again. It would be great if I could get into one of their Cherry Hill shows, though, because, man, Cherry Hill is a little over an hour from me, somewhere in there. And, God, that would be like, I wouldn't need to get a hotel or anything. It would be a cheap trip. While I'm speaking of trips, though, Jim, if you have any actual knowledge of this, have they picked a date for Copacon yet? I know it's real early. It's only February, but I'm also used to the fact that so many shows have been getting their dates in place. It's a little intimidating just how many I've had to register for. I think I'm already I'm just under 30 now for the year, including the ones that I already did. And, I unfortunately didn't get into Dragon Con. I applied for the first time ever this year, which is Labor Day weekend. But I think the chances of me doing as many shows or close to it as I did last year, very close. Oh, no date yet. I'd be interested. I mean, I do want to try to go. I know that there are 2 conventions. One I'm already booked for in September, and then there's another one that I'm looking at registering for when tables open up. But yeah, I would really like to be able to get down there. I think you said it was in Washington, D.C., right? So Now, here's a question. Yeah, no, I'm sure you will. Now, is it just people that are on the conlang list, or is it other conlangers that come? I guess the reason I'm asking is, of course, I would love to meet David. I asked one question one time in the conlang list, and he did respond to it. So he seems like a very nice man. The reason I guess I'm asking is because, I didn't follow up too much with Mark Rosenfelder after, the little bit of fan mail and questions I had for him when he pointed me toward the conlang list, and this is going back years ago. But if I ever had the chance to meet the man, that would also be quite thrilling, if I might say it that way. It just I could always send him another email one day, maybe. Just feel like my time is always so much busier as the years pass, and it's, seeing somebody on a one-on-one, open to anyone that wants to attend. David is very great. Yeah, it seemed like it, because I was asking him something about Dothraki when the Song of Ice and Fire. I think I've mentioned this story, and I asked on the conlang list if anybody knew why, and I assumed it was because initial TH could not be pronounced in Dothraki, but I noticed that, when Jason Momoa would pronounce throne, it would come out throne, right? Throne. So I said, is it, was that just something he was doing? Or I said, does anybody happen to know, or if, because I knew he was on the conlang list. I said, or if David Peterson actually does read these and respond, is it because it's not, they can't pronounce the initial TH sound, the sound for throne. And yeah, he did answer, which was really great. And I was correct. Because that's one of those things that probably like 98% of the people watching Game of Thrones had like no idea about. But because I was interested in languages and the conlanger, I was like, I think that was on purpose. I don't think this was just like some throwaway line to make him look like he couldn't pronounce a word that they were, that English was the stand-in for it. I think that they can't pronounce an initial sound in Dothraki, because that sound definitely is in the middle of words, hence Dothraki, right? But yeah, so it was just a cool little moment. Every once in a while I get them. And then I get, that's when I get excited about languages, little things like that, when I like notice them. That's fun. It is. But no, it's good to know he's very, he's a approachable person. I've been told I am, maybe. I guess that's true. I don't know. I try to be, though. Of course, I don't have the street cred that David does. You have a great ear and eye for detail. That's what makes your art great. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's those little things that stand out to me, and I just, I don't know. I seem to pick up on them. And then, sometimes though I wonder, is it good though? Well, yeah, it does make my art unique to itself. And I just mean, is it good because like sometimes I wonder if I'm too guilty of like not being able to see the forest for the trees sort of thing, and that can get a bit that can wear on a person, I guess, sometimes, maybe. I don't know. I don't really notice it. It's just something that I wonder if, like, sometimes it would be better if I didn't always get so detail oriented. But yeah, at the same time, there are those little things I do pick up on. That is true. Never been diagnosed with any kind of Asperger's or any even like light amount of autism or anything. So I don't know what it's about. But there it is. You know, I do fixate on some little tiny things. But then I can overthink things. I know I said this on the we're getting toward the end, but I know I said this on the conlang list, and everybody just thought I was like way overthinking this. This is going back years ago. But I remember there is still to this day, and have I said this to you? I don't know, because, you know, I never know when it comes up. Still to this day, if you've ever seen The 13th Warrior, based on Michael Crichton's Eaters of the Dead, fantastic book, by the way, and really captures the idea of what it's like reading like an ancient text. But in The 13th Warrior, when we're first introduced to Antonio Banderas' character, his name's escaping me, Ibn Fadlan, I think. Anyway, he says, we're introduced to him. So English is representing Arabic at that point in the story, right? Because he's supposed to be an Arab in that story, in that movie too. And at some point, it does switch, and there's a whole sequence, and that doesn't bother me. I thought that was pretty cool, the way they did that. I think I've said before, I really, regardless of other things about him, I really like what Brian Singer did with Valkyrie when Tom Cruise is writing in his journal, and it just slowly evolves from German into English to, I just think it's a cool device to bring the viewer in. Anyway, I'm getting off track. So Antonio Banderas' character is talking to, I'm forgetting the other character's name too. Starts with an H, I think. But, one of the Norsemen, the one that's really, I think his name means like, the translation of his name is like, not Joker, but something to do with like joy and not being serious or whatever. Anyway, so he says to him, he goes through what his name is, and I'm forgetting it. But because there's so many Ibns in there, right, which is son of, right, or it's the phrase that at least, works to show that, right, in a family name, in Arabic. So the character calls him Ibn, right, or Ibn, and Antonio Banderas in that moment tries to say to him, no, Ibn means son of, like that's not his name, it just means, and the character says Ibn again, and rides away. But that scene always bothered me, because I'm saying, well, if he can't speak Norse or Old Norse, and he's explaining to the guy that Ibn means son of, and we're taking English to be Arabic at that moment, I feel like all Antonio Banderas is really saying, since he can't communicate to the other guy in any other he's really just saying, no, son of means son of. And it just bothers the crap out of me because I just feel like that doesn't make any sense unless in that moment he can speak enough Old Norse to be able to translate that into Ibn means son of. He's just basically saying the same thing twice in a movie. And I don't know why it just bothers the crap out of me because I'm just logically it makes no sense. I understand that for general audience, yeah, whatever. But even before I really got into languages super heavy, I was just like, that doesn't make any sense, man. Like they had to figure out another way to handle that line because he just basically said the same thing twice. Sorry, it's the one linguistic thing in any movie that just still gets on my nerves. And I remember people in the conlang list were just like, let it go. Basically, they were nicer than that, but it was just like, you overthink this too much. Speaking of attention to detail, right? That's where it gets a little too much for me. Anyway, I hope I didn't bore you with that story, James. But I do like The 13th Warrior, just as an aside. Great movie. Not perfect. Definitely different than the book. If anyone out there watching this 7 years later when it comes in your recommendeds because the algorithm finally caught on to it, if you've seen The 13th Warrior, please go read Eaters of the Dead. Michael Crichton is a wonderful storyteller, and that is really a unique book that way. Writers might have misapplied the transformation from one language to another. Good catch. Yeah, it feels like there could have been another way to do it. I know that Omar Sharif's character was already gone from the scene at that point, so he couldn't act as a translator. Or maybe he was still there, but he was off talking to one of the other Norsemen. But it just would have been better to have him there to facilitate that exchange because, yeah, it just bothers me. And it's never stopped bothering me. Every time I think about translations and how to show different characters interacting with each other in different languages when one is being represented with English, I think of that scene and how you can't do that. Because even though, just probably your everyday reader or viewer is not going to notice it, it makes absolutely no sense. Anyway, Jim, it's a little past 10, and now you're really seeing how crazy this attention to detail gets, though, sometimes. It's just never. I'll probably still tell that story another 1,000 times before I die. Yeah, it is a common challenge. It definitely is. And I think when you're not, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, I think when you're not thinking about, the real logistics of linguistics and, how all that goes and interpreting and translating and all that stuff, I think it's probably easy to make that kind of mistake, And I mean, that's true of all art, it's why, you can't be informed on everything, right? I don't want to say anything disparaging about the writers. It's, certainly whatever. They did it the best they could. It just bothers me, and it always will. And I love that movie anyway. Yeah, but it is a challenge. It definitely is. But yeah, so I'll be back again next week, right? What is that? The 13th, I think. I think it's the day before Valentine's Day, right? Something like that. 7 and 6. 12th? Is that right? No, it can't be the 12th. The 13th, 7 and 6. My math is getting off. Anyway, yeah. So I will be back next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Eastern Daylight Time or whatever the hell it is right now. And yeah, want everyone to have a great night. Try not to overthink lines in a movie like I do. And yeah, maybe, who knows? I don't know what I'll have on the. I might just still be finishing these up because I have other things. Yeah, I have other things that I'm working on that I can't show during the live streams. But yeah, yeah, thanks, Jim. It's always fascinating, and you get to see the depths of my craziness during these things. People are gonna play these things back years from now and be like, "Look at what a psychopath he was." Do you want to answer for these comments you made during your live stream? Whatever. I'm happy to do it. Yeah, I'll see you next time, and I'll also be back at the Conline group in a couple of weeks too. But yeah, so everyone have a wonderful night. I will see you next week at 8 p.m. And yeah, let's just get that music going, say goodnight, turn on the little outro thing, and yeah, eventually, yeah, I've also said I will get some music to go with the actual live streams. But yeah, take care, everyone. Have a great night. See you next time.